Hello, my name's Tony Garrett. I'm the chair of the New Zealand Chamber of Commerce and Korea, also known as the Kiwi Chamber.
Okay, you have been a long-term supporter and member of the Kiwi Chamber. How many years have you been chairman, and what roles did you serve prior to that?
I've been a member of the Kiwi Chamber since 2010, and I've been on the board of the Kiwi Chamber since 2011. When I went onto the board, I took the role as treasurer, and actually for the last 6 years, I've been the chair of the Kiwi Chamber.
Aside from your volunteer role in the Chamber, please tell us about your regular day-to-day job in Korea.
Well, I came to Korea as a visiting professor at Korea University Business School. After 2 years, I became a tenure-track professor, and now I'm a fully tenured professor at Korea University. My area specialisation is marketing, with a sub-specialisation in management of technology. So really looking at the role of marketing and how it interplays with engineers, scientists, in terms of coming up with innovative and new products. It pretty much kind of was my inspiration for coming to Korea at the time. When I came to Korea in 2007, I kind of saw where Korea was going in terms of innovation, and certainly have not been disappointed in that particular role. I teach the full range of subjects. I teach from undergraduate through MBA. I have PhD students and master's students. So that's my regular role here in Korea.
The last 2 years have been challenging in Korea due to the pandemic. What impact has this had, and what is the current state of the Kiwi Chamber?
Well, I have to say the impact has been relatively high, although now that we're starting to come out, it doesn't seem to be as high. I think there's a lot of keenness, a lot of people took a bit of a breath during this particular period. One of our principal roles as a Kiwi Chamber, of course, is all about networking and providing networking events. Clearly that could not happen in the COVID time with COVID regulations in place. So we had to try and think of more innovative ways or different ways to actually do our duties. In terms of the impact on the Chamber in the longer term, well, I think we're still seeing how that will pan out, but certainly the signals are very, very good that it's not going to have such a significant impact as we first thought. But I have to say I am very, very thankful for the role of my board and other members within our community to keep this actually going. And it's interesting, we've had no real downturn in terms of the support from our sponsors and our key partners. They've supported us all the way through. And I think everyone realised that this was a very unusual situation, and I think everyone tried to grapple with it in their own way.
You just had 2 very successful New Zealand wine festivals in Seoul and in Busan. Please tell us how great it was to have the wine festivals back.
Oh, it was fantastic. Having the wine festivals back was a fantastic thing. I think this is what many of us were hanging out for. I think it was really disappointing that we could not run the events in 2020. Because 2020 was going to actually signal the 20th time that we had run wine festivals in Korea. Clearly COVID stymied that, but during this particular period we kind of thought about it a little bit more and thought, well, what is the role of the wine festival? How can we make it better? It had been extraordinarily successful in 2019, and as you point out, it was very, very successful in 2022. We had 550 odd guests in Seoul. We had 300 odd guests in Busan, just fantastic events, and I think everyone was looking forward to it. What we try to bring to the wine festivals particularly is a little bit of a flavour of New Zealand. It's formal, but not too formal. Casual, but you know, with a little bit of sense of place, a little sense of ceremony. And I think we just got the balance right this year.
With in-person events now in full swing, what exciting activities does the Chamber have planned for the remaining 2022?
For the remaining 2022, you know, it's been a very busy year. Ever since we've opened up in April, it's just been fantastically busy. We're hoping to run 1 or 2 Inspire with Innovation events, so some speakers. We've identified some really young entrepreneurs who are operating here in Korea, and if we can expose them to the New Zealand community and start building the community afresh. You know, one of the things that happened with COVID was, in fact, a lot of the old guard actually had left Korea and rethought about their careers and moved on to other places. Now it's about re-identifying the New Zealanders that are operating here that at one time were not necessarily seen. So we would like to expose them a little bit more. Ideally, we would love to run an event, another Inspire with Innovation event, to focus on female entrepreneurship and those activities. I think this is a year that we celebrate 60 years anniversary of relationships between Korea and New Zealand. And one of the things that I think New Zealand has been well known for is its diversity, and it's willing to engage in all communities that make up our wonderful society. So I would like to work very closely with the NZTE, the Embassy, to get those events running. We're also looking forward to having a joint event with Kotra. Last year we signed up with Kotra with 16 other chambers to run one joint event over the next 2 years. Our turn is going to be in November, and hopefully we can try and combine that with our Grand Hui, which I'm really looking forward to. We've got those events, but of course I'm wanting to work very much with some of our other key partners, with the New Zealand Kiwi alumni, with the Embassy, with the NZTE, all the other associated organisations. It's going to be a busy last 4 or 5 months of this year.
During your tenure as chairman, what has the Kiwi Chamber achieved? What impact has the Chamber had on advancing business and the overall relationship between the two countries?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I've pondered this particular question a lot. Number one, we cannot take full credit of all the advances that has happened with New Zealand business. But one thing that I think we can say is that we work very closely with other New Zealand agencies to try and deepen the New Zealand-Korean business relationship. One of the big things that we ran over the last 3 years was the New Zealand Tech Roadshow. This was trying to profile or change the image of New Zealand a little bit. New Zealand has always been focused a little bit on F&B, tourism, and some of the industries that many people think about. But when people think about New Zealand, they don't necessarily think about tech, but there have been some really exciting changes that have been occurring. So we've been very lucky to work in partnership with the Embassy, with the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, to actually get a greater profile of New Zealand business, and particularly New Zealand tech business in Korea. When I took over the role as chairman 6 years ago, one of our key roles was in fact to strengthen or take advantage of the opportunities that were offered to us by the FTA. Increase the profile of New Zealand business that have been doing well here. We've run a number of different video series and different video profiles of different organisations operating here in Korea, and the success that they've made in the New Zealand market. And we're very, very closely with CAPE, North Asia and New Zealand, to actually get these produced. And to provide, not templates per se, but kind of best case scenarios of how organisations can operate in this very competitive and challenging market. You've certainly seen advances in New Zealand business in this community. How much is credited to us, I do not know, but we are certainly wanting to at least contribute a little, or feel that we've contributed a little. But certainly to provide a community that New Zealand business who are operating in Korea can work with.
How do you see the Chamber in 5 years?
In 5 years' time, you've got to be very, very careful about your ambitions. We are a volunteer organisation, and we have a board of volunteers. I would like to see the Chamber continuing on the role that it is. So I can see that there are going to be a number of new initiatives. But the more that we can actually help New Zealand business, and actually in return Korean business to operate in New Zealand, but just to help that whole trade relationship between the two countries, if we can exponentially help improve that and increase that, then I think our objectives are being met. I would like us to be very, very inclusive. I would like to see a lot of new blood come into the Chamber. There are some really exciting people that are operating up here in different industries and different areas. And I think in 5 years' time, I'd like to see myself sitting on a very comfortable chair and looking at the Chamber and enjoying the events that the Chamber offers, and just knowing that at least I've been some small part in helping it get to the point that it is.